I'm way behind again. All right. Woo! Let's talk about The Invisible Man. The Invisible Man has a lot going for it, but ends up being a movie you wish was a little better. Its premise, about a woman haunted by the trauma of her abusive ex, lends itself to deeper commentary than just a straightforward thriller. The movie does thrill from time to time, but how quickly the great Elizabeth Moss doing battle with thin air becomes too goofy for itself. I groaned in agonizing boredom at a particular hallway scene in a hospital ward that just went on and on with uninteresting violence. It would have done so well to play more with Cecilia's psychosis, and whether all this was just in her head. But this movie doesn't want you to think those thoughts for too long. It wants to be a good thriller, so it forgets about leaving things up for interpretation and instead gives you all the answers. Maybe it's never going to get better than Alan Moore's iteration, which led to Mr. Hyde locking himself in a room with the Invisible Man to reveal that he has always been able to see him. What he does to him there, you'll just have to read for yourself. The movie started out pretty good, too. With no dialogue and Moss's raw talent, everything is established on the night she breaks out from Adrian's grasp. Right from the opening, you know the person she is in bed with is not someone she wants to stay with. I liked how quiet and effective it all was. The setup was all there. She's been planning it for a long time. Cecilia Cass had been brutally controlled by Adrian Griffin for as long as they have been together. He's a super rich scientist who specializes in optics. Go figure. Invisible Man? Optics? It works. She escapes to her sister's help and stays with a friend of theirs for a couple weeks in contained paranoid fear. She does not leave the house, sorta, until news arrives that Adrian is dead by suicide. Though the news comforts her, she is summoned to the will reading by Adrian's brother Tom. Adrian has left her millions, contingent of course that she commit no crime or be deemed mentally unstable. You know where this is going. And now, pretty quickly, strange things start happening around Cecilia. And by strange, I mean she feels as though she's being watched. And the stove gets turned on high to set what she was cooking on fire. And her bedsheets get pulled off. And she can see the footprints of someone walking on them. Look, none of these moments are more than the sum of their parts. I said before this movie just wants to be a straightforward thriller. So we get some basic setups like this. Before it is obvious that someone is there in every single room with her. The fight in the kitchen is also pretty lame. Just more goofy effects that take me out of the movie. But people around Cecilia start getting hurt, and no one believes it's done by someone they can't see. She's made to look crazy. And I'm not gonna speak more about the plot, just cause there are actually a couple of good twists near the end that I don't want to spoil in case you actually are gonna go see this movie. You know, it's not even that this movie is bad, it's just that it could have been so much greater. I did like the cast of this mostly, especially Elizabeth Moss, who I don't have to tell you at this point is a legend. She's maybe one of a handful of people that could make this movie as watchable as it is. Her lead performance is what mostly kept me going on the okay side of things. The rest do their job too, especially Michael Dorman. The movie was written and directed by Leigh Whannell. Oh my god, he was one of the two dudes trapped in Saw! You've come a long way, Leigh. Is it Leigh? Leah? Lee? Slay. Leigh. It's gotta be Leigh. He's the fucking Saw dude. That movie sucked, obviously, but he's the dude, the 15 hooker gangbang dude with peanut butter and jam or whatever the fuck. He uses a lot of pans and plays with the focus. He'll pan from stationary shots left to right slowly and vice versa to indicate that the Invisible Man is in the same room or adjacent to Cecilia. The focus choices threw me off, though. I didn't get what was going on with that. Seemed more important initially than just highlighting a person or object. Then the movie was doing it too often for me to care. Like, I almost thought there was something wrong with the projector, but I was in one of the best screens at ArcLight that I always try to go into, and so I don't think it was the projector or the screen. I think the movie just is doing it too much with this blurred focus sometimes, and it's really not working by the end. I mean, initially it was like, oh, okay, they're doing this, but then it just seems random. Like, you gotta have reasons for these choices. I think this is kind of a shame. There were good choices made here and there. And one of the biggest holy shit moments I've seen at the movies in a while. Like, There was one moment, seriously, me and the audience were like, whoa! Like, I actually was like, holy shit! And I gotta give the movie credit for that one moment at least. And that's why I say it could have been so much better, because it had something going for it, that I felt something in that moment. But by the end, I'm just like, oh, oh. But all of it is in service of a cookie-cutter thriller, where an ending has to be conclusive, where there is a bad guy and he must be dealt with to satisfy a mainstream audience, and lackluster action to fill up the runtime, and safe choices where riskier ones could and should have been made, and a completely unnecessary shot of something thrown in at the very end. Like, what the fuck? That, I couldn't believe. That's talking down to the audience. That shot of something, I'm not gonna spoil it, but come on, everybody knew what happened. Everybody knew that was what was supposed to happen. And then just to like, oh, come on. Like, it's really dumbed down shit. I mean, I just was like, what? Why? You just know it was at the behest of some fucking lazy studio head who was like, oh, the moviegoers don't get it, even though everything has set it up to be this way. They need it spelled out for them in this shot, and it's so fucking obviously thrown in, and it's just the shot of something and edited in at the last moment. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that was dumb. Overall, though, I think it's a weekend movie you can go see if you really feel the need. But anyone who watched those trailers knows that there was a better movie in here. Gone is the scene of Moss looking insanely at a chair and saying to others, there's someone sitting in that chair, or something like that. You remember from the trailers, and it's not in the movie. And the takes of her looking more insane with her face down but her eyes up like she's in Tokyo Drift at the dinner with her sis have been cut as well. And there's also another big problem with how somebody looks. And I can't say more than that, but it's dumb and distracting as all hell, the way that they portray something, and you're just like, huh? That's it? Dumb. I left The Invisible Man wanting more of a movie. Though it ties its ends up well enough, there just isn't enough done with such a great premise for me. It barely makes use of its R rating, when Alan Moore blew that shit out the water. And I hear the original book is somehow even more disturbing. I think Leigh Whannell ignored those sources, and instead took his notes from Hollow Man. That's not a good thing. That's bad. I mean, they really should have done more with Cecilia's psychosis. I mean, if the trailers made this movie look so good, and you think it's going to be awesome in that hallway scene where that dude gets shot through his kneecap or his leg, and in that scene is boring as fucking hell, and really, oh, it's just so dumb. It just keeps going on, and I don't understand. It should have been way more riveting, and I was just like, oh, definitely a straightforward thriller that doesn't want to make use of such a great idea of this fucking poor woman running from this crazy guy. So much you could have talked about trauma and abuse, and, going back to the ones that hurt you, and the psychosis is not even touched on. Like, was it all in her head? No, that doesn't really come up. Like, she keeps saying, he makes it look like I'm the crazy one. It's like, yeah, maybe you could have put in the movie that it's a possibility she's crazy too. Like, I thought those meds that she drugs him with were her meds, but apparently not. And it's just so much that they could have done much like sneakier, and it's just you're given the answers, and you just know that Adrian's the bad guy, and you know that he's got to be dealt with, and there's really no room for like, oh, is Cecilia just crazy, or is she the one doing these things, which would have been a better thriller, better movie, instead of dumb action that is really dumb. I keep using that word. I don't really stick to words, but like, God, and I want to tell you what the big problem with how this thing looks. It's just these choices. Yeah. And there was good choices made too, and I think the people I saw it with liked it in the theater. Like I said, there's enough in here that's going to satisfy that kind of an audience, but I wanted more. It could have done more. Mr. Saw guy, Leigh Whannell. I mean, you've come a long way. Still.